is the second episode of our DBW Quarantine training series. I am your host and head trainer, Colt Williams. I am also the booking agent and the head of the training department for Detroit Battleground Wrestling here in Michigan. Today, we're going to be covering something different than last time. You might remember last time we were covering holds, moves, things like that. This time around, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing something. My students aren't here right now. One is sick and the other one works all the time. So, it is what it is. It be what it be, and it do what it do. So today we're going to be discussing etiquette. Now, what do we mean by etiquette? What we mean is the do's and don'ts, essentially, of being a trainee or being new to a wrestling program, because there is a difference. You can be a trainee in a program, and there's a lot of do's and don'ts, but also if you're new, even if you think you're a veteran, or if you are a veteran, but you're new to a promotion, until you're really in the door with them, there are do's and don'ts that you need to observe. Little rules, etiquette things, and like I said, mostly a lot of things you don't want to do, because when it comes to etiquette, most programs, including ours, are very big on respecting the other wrestlers, respecting management, respecting the brotherhood as a whole. And if you don't do those things, depending on whether you're a trainee, a young journeyman wrestler, or even an old veteran, you could end up in a very serious situation. You could end up getting stretched, getting your chest chopped off your body, or you could end up, screwing up the opportunity to work with that company altogether. And then, maybe you're able to find a new company, but maybe you're not. Maybe you really wanted to work with them and now you can't because you didn't take that consideration, you didn't show that respect, and you didn't abide the rules of etiquette. So let's start with the easy part, which is respecting. I myself, I finished training with New Generation Wrestling in 2005. I have been an active performer off and on for about 15 years. My other two training partners have been in for about 13 years and 9 years, I want to say. I don't know their exact start-stop dates or, when they did what, but those are my guesstimations as I stand and as I think about it right here and now. If you're a trainee in a program, it doesn't really matter if the guy who's been assigned to train you has been wrestling for 9 years or 9 months. For whatever reason, the people who run that program have decided he's going to be the trainer. So respect is going to be a big deal. Now understand, okay? Wrestling training is a lot like a boot camp. They're gonna drill you till you die. They're gonna make you do things repetitively over and over again until you get it perfect, and they're gonna say some real colorful shit to you, and they might even possibly put their hands on you. After all, we are training you in a combat ballet, as it were, so you're gonna have to get used to getting hit eventually if you want to make it in this business. So the one thing you need to remember beyond anything else is remembering and listening. Remember what you're taught and listen to what they're saying. And I don't just mean like hear what they're saying. I mean, give it your attention. You don't want to be going on a cigarette break in the middle of a lesson. It's really going to piss off your trainer. You don't wander off to check your phone, things like that. More importantly, don't argue with the trainer. It doesn't matter what you think you know. Wrestling programs can be very different. They can be as different as regions. They can be different as individuals. For example, the very prevalent way of doing business now is wrestlers get together and they follow out the whole match. They think of everything up front and they write it all down, very Macho Man Randy Savage style. I was not trained to do that. I had to learn to do that. And I'm not exactly great at it because the way I trained was you called it the ring. That way, you're not trying to remember all of this crazy nonsense. You're just going out there and be like, okay, locking up. All right, now do this, that, do this, that. We called it all in the ring. That's a Southern thing. They don't, I believe, don't believe they still do that, but that's how I was brought into wrestling. That's the people who brought me in. So you have to listen and you have to show respect. So if they tell you to do it this way, like I said in the last video, WWF, post from the right, WCW posted from the left with a suplex, little stuff like that. Now, when you're training, you're going to have to do it their way. If you leave that company and you decide to switch it up your own way, once you're a wrestler, that's up to you. But right then and there, don't argue with them. That's step one. Don't argue with the trainer, because if you argue with them too much, they're either going to jack you up or they're going to send you home. And then you're not going to be able to continue training with that program. Maybe not for that day, or maybe not ever again, depending on how badly you piss that guy off. Because make no mistake about it, I was brought in to do this job, the jobs that I hold, specifically by the owner of the company. So if I tell him you're gone, no matter what you say to him, no matter what you do, you can beg, you can plead, you can try to convince him that I am a egomaniacal, control freaking sociopath, because I am. And he's going to look you dead in the eye and go, yeah, sorry. He doesn't want you in the program. Bye. That's all there is to it. So be respectful. Remember, you're in my school. You're in their school. If it's, not in the DBW program, you're in that person's school. If you're working at the WW Performance Center, I believe it's Sarah D'Amato and Matt Bloom. You're not going to argue with them. You're not going to tell them what you are and aren't going to do, because they're just going to toss you out the door. I'm pretty sure Ring of Honor and House of Truth and, Guy Down the Street, they all do it the same way. You go into House of Truth, and I think their trainer's Josh Movado. You go in there and you tell Movado, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. Well, guess what? You're going to get thrown out of class. That's all there is to it. So that's step one. Be respectful. Do what you're told in training. That's a training thing. You're going to want to remember to have a positive attitude. You're going to want to remember to say thank you a lot. House of Truth, I've been told, you just say thank you every time you're corrected on something. I don't do that specifically, but House of Truth does. So it's something I do hear a lot when I have House of Truth guys who either didn't make it through the program, or they had to drop out, or they couldn't afford to keep paying for it. They come here and I'll tell them, you fell on your head instead of your ass. Get up and do it again. Okay, thank you. I get used to it. So that's going to be step one above everything else, is remember, you're in their house. You're trying to do what they're already doing. Don't argue. Don't be rude. Don't try to change the world in a day. Do it their way. And if you don't like it their way, once you're trained, go someplace that does things your way. I don't know where you're going to find that place, but that would be my suggestion. Listen. Okay, now let's move on to something else. It's going to be something that a lot of people in the business understand. A lot of people outside of the business aren't going to understand it. Shaking hands. Shaking hands is so much more important than anybody outside of the business realizes. If you're new to a company, whether you're a 3-year veteran who just started with this company, or whether you just finished the training program and I'm having you come back for your first booking, you show up at the venue, you find everyone you can. Introduce yourself, shake their fucking hand. Every last person. And then every person who comes after you needs to come up and shake your hand. That's how it works. You shake the hand of every damn buddy who shows up before you. That's how they do it on the very low indie circuit. In the higher indie circuit, if you show up at the show Before Movado, maybe he shakes your hand. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. It's Movado. He can do things his own way. Me, I like to introduce myself to people anyway, but I also prefer that the students find me. Because, quite frankly, if you're working for the company that I work for, you should know who I am. And you should be finding me to tell me, hi, how are you? Thanks for having me out. After all, I am the booking agent for the company. So shaking hands is going to be very important because one, it's going to get your name out there. So that's important. That's going to get your name out there. That now all these other guys, because we have guys in our company who work for other companies too. So you're going to walk up to a guy you may not even know him, and you're going to be like, "Hi, my name's Paul." And he's like, "How you doing, Paul?" And then he watches Paul in the ring, and Paul blows it up. And then the next thing you know, maybe, just maybe, he goes off to do a show outside of DBW. They need some fresh hands. He remembers, hey, Paul can go. Maybe he gets you a shot at the other show. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know. But if he doesn't know your name, how's he supposed to tell them who to call? Etiquette. Be polite, shake people's hands, say thank you. When you show up to a show, find the guy running the show. That'd be me. Find the guy running the show, you shake his hand, you say, thanks for having me out. Now, I'm going to get into a very, very delicate subject. Delicate, delicate subject. And that is etiquette in a bad situation. So let's just say you're from Ann Arbor, just about fucking 2 hours from me. It's pretty far out there. So let's just say you're from Ann Arbor. I have you come out to or Kalamazoo. That's 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive. You come out to the show, and something happened while you were on your way here, and you show up and you shake my hand, and I'm like, hey, really appreciate you coming out. Fortunately, I can't use you tonight. That happens. That was basically my entire intro 5 years into wrestling. I heard that more than I didn't. Hey, thanks for coming out, but the guy you were supposed to wrestle didn't come, or he's sick, or a guy who actually has a name showed up looking to work, and I gave him your spot. All of these things happen all the time. What do? Smile, shake his hand, say, well, thanks for having me out anyway. Go get your free hot dog, sit down in the seat, get a free show out of it. Why? I have to give you that bad news. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, your name's Paul, and you were recommended to me by a really good friend of mine out of Kalamazoo, because I got a few friends out in Kalamazoo, out in the Kalamazoo area, out in Ann Arbor, one from Flint. And he's like, yeah, bring my boy out. And I'm like, great, throw him in the car with you, bring him down. We'll see if we can use him. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you show up, but the guy I was going to book you against broke his ankle, didn't show up, caught the third wave of the coronavirus, whatever. And I say, hey, man, Paul, thanks. I appreciate you coming out. Unfortunately, your opponent no-showed, so I really can't use you tonight. Why don't you go ahead and have a hot dog on me, grab a seat, enjoy the show, maybe next time. Now, if you look at me and you say, yeah, okay, no problem, man. Thanks for having me out. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity. You take your hot dog, put extra mustard on it just to get a little something out of it. You sit down in the front row and you watch a whole show, including your boy who brought you out, and everything is cool and fine and you're good. The next time I have an opportunity, I'm going to remember that. Because, see, I don't know how all bookers work, but this is how my brain works. I'm going to think, I owe you one. I don't actually owe you one, but my brain's going to tell me, you know what? I had them come all the way out for nothing. So the next time my boy from Kalamazoo or my boy from Flint says, hey, you still want me to bring out Paul? I'm going to be like, yeah. And this time, maybe I make sure I got something for you just to make it up to you. And now I'm remembering you because I remember that you are a professional. You understood that something happened that kept you from working that match. Now I make sure you have a match. Or maybe something happens again. Point of the matter is that it's etiquette. I invited you out. I may not be able to always use you, but at least I gave you a free show. I didn't, make you stand outside in the cold next to the smokers. So I'm going to remember you, and I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, great. Yeah, let's bring him out. Let's see if we can actually get him in the ring this time. And you get in the ring, you blow it out. Maybe I offer you a permanent spot. I don't know. Could happen. I'm always looking for good hands. Now, let's just say that exact same thing happens, and I go, sorry, man, I can't use you. Your opponent got Ebola, and you come at me sideways. Well, now a few things are going to happen. First of all, I'm going to cuss you the fuck out, and I'm going to have you thrown out of the building. And if homie was your ride, now you're waiting in the car. Secondly, I'm going to remember you cussed me out and that you don't understand that this business, there's a reason they put part subject to change on the bottom of the ticket. You know what I'm saying? You don't do business. So next time I need a guy, it ain't going to be you. Thirdly, and most importantly, I'm going to go talk to your boy because he brought that drama into my life. Now, see, you done screwed up your shot and you might screw up his. So be polite. Sometimes crap happens. Okay? If your name's Paul and you're from frickin' Kalamazoo, Michigan, and you got 3 matches under your belt, and for whatever frickin' reason, 2 days before the show, Chris Sabin calls me up and is like, dude, I heard you guys are the place to be. Let's do this. Yeah, he's getting your spot. I'm sorry. That's just good business. Who's going to bring more? When I put him on the front of the program, who's going to bring in more? Chris Sabin or Paul from Kalamazoo? That's just business. So be polite because eventually your chance will come. Mine did. It took a while because I was doing that other thing when people would blow me off. I'd get heated and I'd screw stuff up for myself because I was 19 and had a big fucking mouth. So, what have we done? We've covered shaking hands. We've covered listening to people, taking people seriously, not being a douche. Okay, what else can we talk about? Let's see. What's another thing in etiquette that really, really, really chaps my ass? Well, that's interesting. Seems to have blanked out there for a second. Give me a moment. So, okay. Show up. Oh, yeah. Showing up to shows. If you agree to book a show, if you agree to be at the show, do everything in your power to get to the show. We understand things happen. A lot of guys in like the upper levels catch a lot of flack for this. They'll be like, sorry, my flight got canceled, so I'm not going to make the show. Okay, get your money back from the plane ticket and rent a car, maybe. So you made a commitment. We're performers, so we make a commitment. Etiquette. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a big one. I knew there was a big one. I just remembered it. Okay. If you are a trainee or you are new to the company, what I'm about to tell you could really save your life. Locker room etiquette. Now, I realize that most people don't know who the big bad names in our company are. So I'm going to write you a scenario based on WWE because everybody knows WWE, right? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I bring you in. I'm the booker for WWE in this fantasy. I wish. I bring you in, and I'm like, all right, Paul, this is your big shot. I'm going to give you a shot at this. Maybe we can work something out if you make this match look good. So here's what's going on. You're going to be wrestling the Undertaker. Go back and get dressed. Go back and get dressed. First and foremost, you should already know what the finish of this match is going to be. It's going to be a tombstone bomber. That shouldn't even be a question. Your name's Paul. His name's the Undertaker. Who gets to win? That part's easy. Now, what you need to understand: locker room etiquette. You are basically a guest in someone else's home. As such, comport yourself that way. Polite, respectful. Most of all, once you sit down in that locker room to put your gear on, get ready for your match, shut the fuck up. I can't put it any more simply than that. Shut up. Open your ears and close your mouth. Because guess what? You don't get to decide what goes on in this match. This is your first match with the company. Maybe it's your first professional match, period. You're not in control of the situation. Nobody cares about the shit you want to get in. We don't. I promise you, none of us care because you are the sacrificial lamb. That's the way that is. It's called paying dues. If you think you're too big and bad to pay dues, there's a picture on the internet in New Japan Pro Wrestling of Luke Gallows. WWE just fired Luke Gallows carrying fucking ring ropes. If he can pay dues, so the hell can all of you. That is what that is. And there's nothing else to be done with that. You sit down with your opponent and you ask, okay, so what are we doing tonight? And then you do exactly what they say at all times. They're going to sit and they're going to tell you, okay, so we're going to start out the match. Have you ever seen one of my matches? Okay, great. You have. It's going to be the Undertaker thing. He's going to go, you know what the hell I do. Okay, I'm going to shoot you in. I'm going to hit you with a big boot. I'm going to hit you with the snake eyes, whatever it is he does, whatever he chooses to do. And you're going to be like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay, yeah, great, yeah. Yeah, you're going to walk the rope, hit me on top of the head. Yeah, great. That's great. Yeah, yeah. And you're just going to do it. You're not going to say anything. Now, if a pro is feeling benevolent and he actually wants to make you look good in that match, at some point, Mick Foley was famous for this. At some point, he might look at you and say, so, was there anything you wanted to do in the match? This is your opportunity to very politely suggest the things that you're particularly proud of. Well, I do a really good suplex, or I got this spot where I powder out of the ring. And as I get up on the ring apron, the guy goes to dive at me and I jump over him and he falls at the ground or whatever it is. But here's the thing. The only time you need to be talking about getting your shit in is when a pro asks you if there's any shit you want to get in. That's all there is to that. Whether you're a fresh face or you're just fresh to the company. And pros understand this. Because just because you're somebody doesn't mean you're enough of a somebody to walk into someone else's locker room and start deciding what's going to happen. There's a very famous case in ECW of someone who didn't keep his mouth closed and disrespected the locker room, and he ended up going to the hospital. We all know who he is. I won't talk about him here. Although you can ask my trainees, I talk about him. Etiquette is important. And that's one of the premier points of etiquette. It's listening, communication, and listening. Get into a match with me, if I put you in the ring with me, and I'm like, all right, so we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then I'm going to hook you up, and I'm going to put you in a stalling suplex. And by the way, that's one of my signature maneuvers is a stalling suplex. If I tell you, hey, I'm putting you up for the staller, and you're like, okay, but what if I blah, blah? What I said was, I'm gonna put you up in the stall and suplex. Yeah, but what I said. See where I'm going? That's not how it works. Okay. Biggest guys in the company, biggest names in the entire company have taken my stalling suplex. What the hell makes you think you get to reverse? Moreover, to the point, why are you telling me what we should be doing? I'm a professional wrestler and I'm the booker. And your name is Paul from Kalamazoo. Why would you try to run over me like that? You have to understand, we're all a proud bunch. But see, you don't have a name yet. You could get one over time, sure. Nobody in our fan base knows who you are. Now, that changes a little bit if it's a big name coming into a small company. Some allowances might be made, but we're talking about Paul. And Paul doesn't get to slap me around. I'm one of the bigger names in the company, and I'm a veteran. Paul gets to do his job, and maybe Paul one day gets to go over, but it's not today. You have to understand and you have to learn how this works and how you fit into it, because you have to understand, you fall down from me today and maybe tomorrow you go over that guy. Maybe next month you're in a number one contenders program. You don't win, but you're in the program. So you got to start somewhere. So you start in the mailroom, then you work your way up to getting somebody's coffee. Then maybe you get the coffee of somebody a little bit bigger than him. And then maybe at one point somebody's getting you your coffee. We all went there. Ask any of the trainers, ask any of the veterans in my company. We all started out as someone punching bag. And then one day, the guy calling the shots goes, okay, you're going to get your first win. It's going to be over a nobody, but you're going to get your first one. We're going to see how it looks on you. And that guy, he decides he likes the way it looks when you win. So now you get another win. It's over the same guy, but this time it's a little more definitive. Then you move on to another guy, and another guy. And then the next thing you know, you're in the hardcore program, which is kind of the lower rung area. Next thing you know, you're in the hardcore program. You work your way through the hardcore program. People are still with you. Yeah, get him, Paul, get him. Smack him back to Flynn. Get him, Paul. And maybe at some point, a guy like me goes, wow, people are actually coming here to cheer for Paul. I should put Paul in a bigger program, and then maybe you're going for a mid-card title. Or maybe I put you with another guy who's up and coming but can't carry his own weight. Not his own weight, but can't carry an entire program by himself. I make you a tag team, and I throw you in the tag team division. Or maybe you really have that thing. Maybe you're that guy, like maybe you're the next Randy Orton, or you're the next John Cena, or the next Batista. And I'm like, you know what? Give him the world title, see what happens. And everybody loves it. And next thing you know, you started out getting slapped around by me, and now you're the world champion. It only took a few years. This is a long game we play. And it all starts with etiquette. Because if you're not shaking hands and you're not sitting there listening to how the veteran says the match is going to go, if you're in training telling the trainers that they're assholes and that you're not going to do that, if you're sitting there telling people you're not going to take their move, not because you're afraid of it, but because your ego says nobody should be able to powerbomb me. If you're one of those guys who says, I don't tap out, even though you have nothing to support that decision with, you're not going to get far. You're not going to get far in this company. You're not going to get far in any other company. They want people who are good hands. They want people who play ball. They want people who get in the ring and do the job correctly. Win, lose, doesn't matter. Last time, I'll say it this time. Championships don't matter. Wins and losses don't matter. It's all about getting the crowd. And the crowd, more than anybody, decides what you do or don't get. But in order for you to get in front of that crowd, you have to show some respect, and you have to get past me and others like me. So that is going to do it for this one. I hope that I covered most of the important things. Just a few for wrapping up. Remember, wipe your feet when you get in the ring. Don't get into somebody else's ring until they tell you you can. Don't eat or drink around the ring. Some water. Uh, Before, if you're hanging out before a show, don't have your niece or nephew get in the ring to fun around, because it's a liability issue. And most importantly, if you're not a girl, go between the top and middle row. That's going to wrap it up for this training session. Feel free to leave any questions or comments below if you don't have my personal contact information. If you do happen to have my personal contact information, which would be most of my roster, you can always ask me those questions on Facebook, or you can call me, or if you're the two morons who live in my house, you can just come find me. I'll be right up there. And until then, if you can't be good at it.